Hi, Ron LeGrand here. Before we get started with the podcast, I thought you might want to know that I recently recorded a 90-minute online training about how we make so much money today in the terms business. That's on pretty houses in pretty neighborhoods, not the junk houses that we have to go rehab or wholesale. I go through step by step on exactly what I and thousands of my students are doing right now to make the fastest and the easiest money in real estate without using your money or credit. If you're interested in doing just that, go to thementorpodcast.com/free training. See you there.
Welcome to the Mentor Podcast, where the most highly motivated entrepreneurs come to get their weekly dose of financial stability with host Ron LeGrand, as well as other nationally recognized thought leaders who will teach you how to get, grow, and protect your wealth.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to thementorpodcast.com. I have Neil Timmins on here today. He's a very interesting guest because he has so much experience in both residential and commercial. I don't know more about Tim than Tim does, so I'm going to let him tell you how important he is. And then we're going to do a little comparison of residential and commercial, which is kind of near to my heart because I do both as well. Welcome, sir.
Ron, I appreciate you having me.
What I do? I just called you Tim, didn't I? I just got to interview a guy named Tim. Okay, I understand your name is Neil. Sorry.
Hey, it's all good. I'll make sure the check's written right, man.
Okay, you do that.
It happens all the time. Neil Timmins. So I literally, from about wee high, I've been called Tim ever since. And I suspect my three younger brothers have all been called Tim as well.
Okay. Sorry.
I appreciate you having me on. Thanks for the time, Ron.
So you've got a pretty illustrious background in real estate. Why don't we start with that?
Yeah, 18 years in the industry, started my career as a real estate agent and spent a whole bunch of years in there. Was a top RE/MAX guy in Iowa when I was still in my 20s, many moons ago, and morphed into single family investing, fixed flip, rentals, got a whole bunch of rentals even still to this day. And over the last few years have been morphing into the commercial side of things and have absolutely fallen in love with the commercial side for residential, although we still do both, to your credit, but focusing and shifting in a much bigger way to the commercial side because of all the benefits, all the leverage points.
Yeah.
Dollars, yes, but certainly time.
Yeah. But I bet you don't even know that I did the exact same thing in the early 2000s before the crash hit.
I didn't know when it transpired, but I heard you speak about 2 years ago, and you had touched on some of the commercial stuff in that era. Yeah. And so, I knew you were involved, just not to what degree.
Oh, we had projects all over the country, big projects, $100 million plus projects. And yet, like you, I was kind of shifting into commercial that the students brought me, and we were developing, which was the big problem. We were developing things to sell. Mm-hmm. And then when there was no buyers because of the market crash in 2008, that all didn't work out so well. How many times do you think I look back and ask myself, what if I were developing income producing properties with people in there paying for them? It would have probably turned out totally different. But hey, I learned a lot. But here I am, still going. But residential has been my forte since I started in 1982, still do it today, thousands of deals. And I don't want anybody to think that commercial is a way to stop doing residential. It's just an addition to it, and a very good addition, which I'm going to let you talk about here.
Well, to your point, it's a wonderful springboard to be able to cut your teeth, if you will, on the residential side, because there is so much to be learned and can build a foundation of education, but dollars and cents at the same time, but then to level up to a degree. And for me, that has meant risk concentration, time concentration in the commercial space. And, you're right. It's commercial, just like residential, is pretty broad. You can do a whole bunch of things. You could develop, you can buy, right? You can buy existing stuff. And you're at one end of the spectrum on the development side, and specifically development for sale. And, my wheelhouse is more value add, dented and scratched commercial properties, if you will. Some of that being physical, some of that being managerial, some of that being economical, dented and scratched, and then focusing on that. So springboarding, if you will, taking what I've learned on the fix and flip side of residential real estate and then applying that the commercial side for much more significant capital appreciation and cash flow.
So I'm guessing what you do is really darn close to what we do and what I teach. I teach if the property don't have a problem, you don't want to buy it because we fix problems. That's how we make money.
That's how we make money.
We're not the end buyers that buy them at retail stabilized price. We're the people who sell it to those folks. We don't buy like we sell. So tell me, what kind of commercial are you working on currently?
Yeah. Currently, I've got an office space that I'm in. We literally just moved in yesterday into the office space.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And so this particular office space, 10 unit office space, 11,000 and change square feet, 50% vacancy. And so we took one of the suites and gave a facelift to the other suites along with the exterior of the building. And literally the showings just started on this in late last week. So we're fielding the interest and getting the interest in getting this thing filled.
So you bought an office building in a climate where office buildings are not all that popular because a lot of them are empty, including my own.
Yep.
I might add.
Yep.
I have 3 office buildings in the same compound. We used one of them, 2 of them. One of them we rent out, but the one we use the most, I was just in it. Yay, whiz, there's nobody around.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, what in the world am I doing with this big old office space? But, hey, it's nice space. What the heck? Fortunately, though, Neil, it's free and clear. So the debt's not going to take me out on that one.
Yeah.
My company's paying rent on it, whether we use it or not. So I don't want any sympathy here from anybody. But, the way you just described is the way I think back to 1984 when I bought a closed up convenience store, cut it in half, put my office on one side and rented out the other one and was there for free.
Yep.
You just did the same thing times 10 spaces, which is very smart. And people listening to us that want an office probably ought to go look for the same thing.
Well, that and right now I'm at, so it was half empty. I filled one. So now we have 4 units left and we are positive cash flow today.
Oh, so you have 5 units.
Yeah, there's 4. Yeah, there's 10 units total. 5 were filled by when I bought it. Then I moved into the 6th unit. And so that leaves 4 vacancies at this point in time. But we are cash flow positive right now, even with 4 vacancies.
You should be with 6 out of 10 occupants.
Correct.
You do have 10 units, is what I'm saying.
10 units still.
You're literally not only working in there for free.
Yeah.
You're actually making money.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, correct.
Because you bought it by the quart and you're going to rent it by the shot.
You got it.
And what do we do, isn't it?
Yes.
All right. So what else is going on in your commercial world?
On the commercial world, well, we're actively trying to find and acquire new buildings. We're under contract for a property out of Indianapolis, Indiana. And so I'm buying that with a partner, and that one is a self-storage facility, and you'll love this. Are you ready for this, Ron? Because it's in your wheelhouse. It is owner financed.
All of it?
No, we're putting down, it's a $1.4 million purchase, $200,000 is the downstroke.
Okay. And what's it going to take to turn it around, get it stabilized?
To turn it around, well, it's cash flow positive from day one, post debt service. It's not particularly sexy, if you will, when you compare it to how much the input was for dollars and cents. But inside about 6 months, we need to bump the rates a little. We need to work on the signage, which is pretty poor, and then streamline the management. But it's 96%, 96% occupied, and rents are under market. So that's how we're going to buff that thing up, if you will.
How many units is it, Neil?
149.
That's a nice buy. That's cheap.
149, self-storage units. And then there is ability to expand to double it in size.
Nice. So you bought it for $10,000 an existing unit.
Yeah.
And then you can double it in size.
Yeah.
And with owner financing, probably no personal guarantee, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct.
Yeah. Downstroke on it. So where did you raise the money to get to $200,000 and the money you're going to put in it after?
Yeah. So we didn't go external. I'm looking for active deals anyway and could use the depreciation. So between myself and my partner, we structured a deal where he's in it a little and I'm in it a lot from dollars and cents standpoint.
Got it.
Are you ready? Hold on. You ready for this one?
Yeah.
The seller financing, interest only, 5%. You're going to love this. 20 years.
Nice.
I took this, a hat tip to you, my friend. I took this out of your playbook.
Then I can expect a check anytime soon, right?
You can, yeah. Just it's probably, I'm going to make sure it goes to one of those empty offices that does not have its mail check.
Mail now. Okay, so you know what though? What you just described to me is a slam dunk, humongous seller discount when you pay them off, when you get ready to pay them off.
Yes.
They're going to take a big discount on that deal. Cash now rather than 20 years worth of payments. I mean, I would too. Who wouldn't?
Right.
They know what to do with the money. So you just set yourself up for a payday on the back end, probably as big as a payday on the front end.
Yeah. The one piece I want to, which we haven't yet closed, so I want to incorporate it in the contract, a little lime twist, if you will, is the ability to do a collateral swap. So in the event we get this thing to exactly where we want it, home run, it doesn't get any better than this. It's time to move on to the next piece and take the debt with me.
Okay. That's called substitution of collateral. And it's nice to get it agreed upon up front, but you'd have to renegotiate it on the back end when you're ready to do it anyway.
Yes. They're always going to have questions about the collateral. Yes.
Yeah. I never had any problem getting substitution of collateral. I just made it worth their while, whatever it took. By the way, I didn't open my big mouth, tell them what I was going to pay them.
Correct.
In fact, I didn't tell them I was going to pay them anything. I just told them I'd like to do it. And then if they had any objections, then I'd come up with something to make it worth their while, like money, or change the terms or whatever.
Yeah.
Never had any problem. Now, our listeners, Neil, don't know what that means. So let me explain it in real simple terms. You go get another property and you're going to ask this seller to remove the $1.2 million lien on this property and put it on another property that you have enough equity in it to do that. And that's going to free up this property. So when you cash out of it, you get to keep all of the money, right?
That's right.
Your new seller is going to get a lien on, well, your new seller is going to get, I don't know what you're going to do with your new seller, but this seller is just going to substitute collateral for a collateral on another property, which is of equal or greater value than the collateral on this property. Now, I'll tell you what else I did many times in the past. You don't have to go all on one property. Sometimes you got 2 or 3 different properties. You can split this note up, and it's in the seller's advantage because now all of their eggs aren't in one basket. And something goes wrong with one, they still got to lean on the others. And I'm doing a seminar here on substitution of collateral, but you brought it up. Okay. What else is going on?
That's wonderful. That's what we've got going on actively right now. And it's literally, we're down a path to identify more commercial property and educate some folks along the way about the ease and convenience and the ability to get into commercial real estate. Because for a lot of folks, that gap can be seemingly a little wide but after you've walked it, been through it, it's just it's like anything. It's like riding a bike. Just get in there, do it. Yeah.
There's no question. It's bigger money. It's bigger growth. It's bigger appreciation, bigger depreciation, bigger cash flow. And honestly, with everything we do in residential, we do most of it in commercial. The only difference is the due diligence going in.
Correct.
Much more due diligence, much more cost in doing the due diligence going in. A lot of deals fall out because of that due diligence. But on the other hand, look what you got. Now the whole goal, if I were doing it, I'd take every bit of cash flow out of that thing, pay down that debt as fast as I could, because 149 unit self-storage unit, one could probably live on that. It was free and clear, couldn't they?
Sure.
Yeah.
Depending on how you live.
Yeah, I guess that's right. Maybe it's not enough. I don't know. I'd have to do the math on it.
Yeah.
So what kind of positive cash flow you got on it right now?
That one, post-debt, it's pretty negligible. So, well, let's say pre-debt, it's about $78,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
And so post-debt, your debt service is $60,000. So post-debt, it's $18,000. That number, when we get in there and execute our business plan, should shift to about $70,000. So we move it from $18,000 net to $70,000 net.
And $70,000 net, what kind of cap rate would you put on that right today?
Oh, $70,000 net on that, about that's post-debt, mind you, post-debt payment of $60,000. So you're really at $130,000.
Okay, so
Right.
you're at 130,000 NOI.
Yes, correct.
What's the cap rate
Let's
in that market right now?
this is probably a solid 7 if you squeeze it a little
7?
better. Yeah. So I'm getting the calculator out
Do the math for
because
me.
I already know where you're
For all
going.
of our listeners,
I'm gonna round down just a couple bucks. 185. 1,850,000.
okay, so you will raise the value of that property $450,000 just by raising some rents.
Right. Raising some rents. Put a new sign out front.
And that's before you expand it.
Before we expand it, yes. And then which we conceivably double, because it's double size, so just call it double the value. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I think that's what it's all about, isn't it?
You're exactly right.
All right. So what else you got going on? You got any other got apartments by any chance?
We have apartments in the portfolio, and we're actively trying to identify. So we may buy a multitude of things, and I'm in Des Moines, Iowa. It's a tertiary market, so I've gotten really good at spreadsheets and identifying asset classes and multiple things. So we've got apartments, we've got warehouse, we've got medical office. We kind of run the gamut in a tertiary market. Any which way we can get to 2 pennies to turn into 4. By golly, we learn it.
So in other words, you're not a specialist. You're a generalist like me.
Yeah.
You like to play with different types of commercial property. And the reality is there's only 2 kinds of commercial property. There's land and there's buildings on land.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there's only 2 types of buildings on land, the ones you're operating and the ones that are producing income.
Correct.
So when you really break it down, in some degree, it doesn't matter whether it's apartments or whether it's self-storage or whether it's office or whether it's industrial or all those other things that produce income. Different classes, different numbers, different pre-screening, different analysis to work with. So that brings me back to cap rate. You are aware that we got a whole bunch of people that don't even know what cap rate means, and it probably ought to be explained. And I think I'm going to let you do that.
Well, I'm going to explain it. That's perfect. So a cap rate, and then I'm going to take it one step further, and I think you'll appreciate this because of the way we both buy. A cap rate, I call this your Wall Street multiplier. It's actually the inverse of that. Is that it is a measure of return on investment in a snapshot of time. So, for example, if it's a cap rate is 7, that means your return is 7%. You're going to pay 100.
Paid cash for the property.
If you paid cash for the property, you're exactly right. Your return would be 7%. Mm-hmm. And so here, my argument and the way I buy deals, and Ron, I think you'll appreciate this, is that I'm not a cap rate buyer. A cap rate buyer in my mind would be a big giant trust fund or a REIT who has to go off to who's got hundreds of millions of dollars sitting around, and they're going to go buy a Burger King with 10 years lease on it, and they're going to pay a 5 cap for it, 5% rate of return if paying cash. And that's what they get. If you put a little debt on it, you put some debt on it, great. You probably get a little leverage on that. But for the way I buy things, I'm a rate of return buyer. So I don't pay any attention to a cap rate other than maybe brokers talk about it all the time, a frame of reference, because let's say the building's 100,000 square feet, Ron, and nobody occupies it. So actually it's a 0 cap.
Right.
There's no income. Well, does that have value to it? Does 100,000 square feet non-occupied have value to it? Of course. And so that's what has me going, I'm not a cap rate buyer because I don't pay much attention to it, because I know when I can go in and impact the income, I'm going to get a multiple return.
Yeah, but Neil, on the counter side of that,
go for it.
It helps me quickly identify the waste of timers. Somebody that's asking a 5 cap, I'm not even going to look at it twice because I always top retail price. And you're right. I'd rather have a 0 cap when I'm buying. Okay, not when I'm selling, when I'm buying, because that means that it's got a big upside in it, and it means we got to turn around and stabilize it. Downside is getting that bought and learning how to financing so that you can buy it, because no bank's going to lend you the money.
Correct.
It doesn't have any tenants in it, so you've got to go to other avenues. Like I teach when I actually do commercial teaching a couple times a year.
Right.
I like the cap rates for the easy identifiers, but I also like them to figure out what the property will be worth once I achieve whatever I think that cap rate is. At least I have a way to determine what it's going to be worth if, in fact, we have an NOI that we project that is reasonable, and we have a cap rate that we think it'll be at that time. So that's the only reason that I use cap rates. But we want to buy at a lower note, and I'm sorry, we want to buy at a high cap or no cap and sell at a low cap. That's the whole game, isn't it? If we're going to sell.
Yeah, for me, I take it one step further because I'm looking at what is my rate of return, and are there extenuating circumstances? So on the storage unit there in Indiana, I'm paying a 5.5 or 5.6 cap, which is terrible from a cap rate standpoint.
Yeah.
But to take it one step further, okay, well, there are extenuating circumstances. Can we move the rents up? Yes. Do we have seller financing? That's the thing that makes this whole thing sweet.
Absolutely.
Is a seller financing thing, to the point where I'm not so concerned about the cap rate, because when we go in and make the changes in year one, I think we can work a cash on cash return.
Yeah.
That's 25 to 30%.
Yeah.
I
recognize something even more valuable than that. You told me that you can double the capacity.
Correct.
That does not factor in to your current
No,
cap
you're
rate.
exactly right.
Now go double the capacity, your cap rate's going to totally change, because you got no more, well, maybe a little more debt, but you don't have to go buy the land and all that stuff all over again. By the way, do you build storage units?
This will be the first time we're going to go have it done. As soon as we get this and can prove out that we can raise the revenue, raise rent rates, that's the next phase of that project.
Right.
Yep.
Well, let me give you a tip.
Please.
You can have them bring them in on a forklift now and set them on the ground.
That's
right.
Yes.
No, I'm serious.
No.
You also know that is 5-year depreciation.
Right.
Accelerated depreciation, which totally changes the tax. It totally changes the whole value if you were to sell it during that depreciation period. But it also, if I'm told, is a lot cheaper than trying to build them, because they're not fixed to the ground, so to speak. They're personal property. I
learned that. I'll give you something to chuckle about. So I fly to Indiana to go look at this property, right? We've contracted it, and now it's time to go do the due diligence. And so I've never been to the market. So I go into the market, meeting my partner there at 9 a.m. I had my staff pull me every self-storage unit within a 3-mile radius and map it out for me. So I had this whole thing in a spreadsheet. So by 9 a.m., I had been to 13 other locations, and I had taken pictures of every single location in the city in a 3-mile radius, because I want to know what my competition is, right? And I did all this before ever going to the property. So I already have a frame of reference for to go, who's the best, who's the worst, what does this mix look like? I came into U-Haul. U-Haul, as you know, is buying all these defunct Kmarts. And they turn them into self-storage. And on the exterior of a Kmart parking lot, because these parking lots are enormous, they did exactly what you just said. Mm-hmm. And so, of course, in my mind, I'm like, make a note. And I do that from doing enough cost segregation. So I'm going, that's got to be there's no way that's 15 plus year property. That's for sure going to be depreciated in year one. So I made a note of that. And that's what we will be going to the city with. The city already had approved a plan for construction, which we're now going to have to go and have modified to do exactly what you just suggested. I want you to picture this as far as raising money goes. I don't know if you can depreciate it all in 1 year or not. I'm not sure, but I think you probably can. It is business equipment. Correct. Like my airplane. Yeah. Bought an airplane because I depreciated it all in 1 year. All right. Yeah. In reality, for a person in the 37% bracket like me, that airplane made me money in year one, because I got more at a 37% bracket. You go spend $1 million, that's $370,000 you do not send to the IRS. Correct. Okay? Now I get to write off the airplane on top of that for the expenses of operating it. I literally made money the first year. I didn't lose money, and still got the profit. Don't have depreciation anymore, but that's the same thing. Think of what that's worth to someone who is maybe putting up the down payment on this property, or putting in the equity. They literally may be able to get a bigger tax savings than they're putting up on the down payment. That's an easy sell. That's kind of a no-brainer. Pay the government or own anything. That's an easy one. Assuming anybody listening has any idea what I just said, that is. All right. Listen, what kind of advice would you give our folks, knowing that they may not have their heads around this commercial stuff right this minute? Well, I mean, two things. One, and I love your work, right? Get a mentor. Doesn't matter who it is. Well, it does, but get a good mentor. Somebody's been around, somebody knows their stuff. In that same vein, I wrote a little piece. I'd be happy to give it and share it with your folks here. This is uncovering off-market commercial deals, the who, the where, and the how. You can get it on my website, legacyimpactpartners.com/gift, GIFT. It's free.
Okay.
Go ahead and grab the download.
Say it again.
Yeah, legacyimpactpartners.com/gift.
Okay. All right. Well, any parting words before we get off of this thing today?
Oh, well, the last comment I'll say just in relative to that is, the best deals in commercial real estate, much like residential real estate, come off market. Commercial real estate's a little different in the sense of there's a tremendous amount of off-market deals that take place, even with brokers.
Neil, off-market meaning not listed with real estate agents.
I say off-market is not publicly available. Right. They are, in this case, they are listed with agents, but agents do their own work. They have a listing agreement, but they don't go put these things on LoopNet or Crexi or any sort of MLS. They are working their own buyers, their own clientele, so that they can double the commission, and a tremendous amount of deal flow transpires that way. And that's what this piece is about. This checklist is about. Really, it's a cheat sheet about how to get to brokers. How do you find these off-market deals through brokers?
All right, I got it. All right, well, thank you, sir.
Thanks, Ron.
I appreciate your input today, and hope to see you here pretty soon. We'll do another interview on something. We could talk all day long if we wanted to.
I'd love it. Okay. I'll talk to you soon, Ron. Thanks so much.
That's all for this edition of the Mentor Podcast. To connect with Ron and learn how you can attain financial freedom, as well as up-to-date strategies to grow and protect your wealth based on today's discussion, go to www.connectwiththementor.com.